Oh yeah.
Okay, ¿cómo estás? How are you? ¿Es bien? Yeah, now I can speak in my video, with the
Lecture in
Spanish
Spanish,
language.
yeah.
I will do the lecture in Spanish. Yeah. Buenos días. Okay. Anybody have questions before we start? No? Very much okay with the yesterday's lecture? You got what, kind of keep some of the information that already get it from yesterday. Now, I sent you last night the video about the human skin color, okay, the biology of human skin color. If you watch it, you actually will find the informations about that type of varieties within the population, right? And then the adaptation, that's a part of the adaptation. We're talking about adaptation, natural selection, adaptation, and then speciation. But for human, we don't really call it speciation again, remember? We don't have different species of human, but again, we have different different races. Now, that races is actually based on the morphology, based on the characteristic that make people, put us in different races. And again, this is a adaptation to the environment, to their habitat. Okay, so anybody know why people that live in the tropical area have darker colors? If you watch that movie or that video, you should be able to find it.
Is the concentration of UV light?
Concentration of UV light, that's right. That's what the stimulus. Now, what is the adaptation for that people that live in the tropical country? Of course, so many UV light, and to be able to survive with so much UV light in the tropical area, that this population have to adapt. The one that is not adapted is actually gone. That's the reason why mostly you will see the people that live in that place is the one that really adapted to the environment for a long period of time, especially the UV lights. What type of adaptation?
Are you referring to like melanin?
Melanin. What melanin?
What melanin?
What kind of adaptation? You say melanin.
Yes.
How?
Melanin to help protect the skin. And I think particularly there's some components of it, particularly for women, in protecting something along the lines of some components of fertility.
There's some of them, okay.
Folic acid.
Okay. Any? Do you have any idea why tropical people, tropical country people have a darker skin?
The higher pigmentation from the melanin, and we've already mentioned the sort of UV, but it also sort of has to do with the vitamin D creation, because lighter skin more easily absorbs light, and it's sort of more is converted into vitamin D.
That's right.
Darker skin, then because
less,
in an area with way more sunlight, you wouldn't want to be creating too much vitamin D. So it sort of puts a limiter on that. Yeah,
so it's kind of advantage and disadvantage. There is advantage and disadvantage. So which one, that population have to choose more? Okay. So now another question is, melanin, it is the name of the pigment. It has brownish dark color. That's actually melanin. It is a protein, right? It's produced by special cell in our skin. Anybody know what is the name of the cell that produces the melanin? Melanocytes. Remember in science, cytes mean cell. Melanin. So cell that produce melanin is called melanocyte. Good. Now another question. Okay, compare you have different skin color, right? Now my question is, do you have different number of melanocytes or not?
No.
No, good job. So you mean you watch the video. That's good. Everybody, when they born, they actually carry the same number of melanocytes. What is the different production? Okay. So there are some people that produce more melanin, and there are some people that produce less melanin. You got this one first. Now, melanin production is mostly stimulated by UV light. Are you with me? The more UV light, the more melanin will be produced. Therefore, many white people, if they want to be what you call the tan color, what they do?
Sunbathe.
Sunbathing or tanning bath, right? What is that? Exposing their skin with
More UV light.
more UV light. It is dangerous or not?
Dangerous.
The tanning beds are really dangerous.
Very dangerous. Sunbathing also for whitish people is also more dangerous. They have the riskier to get what kind of cancer?
Skin cancer.
What is the name? Melanoma. Okay, melanoma cancer. That's the most dangerous type of cancer. There are another cancer called the carcinoma, which is not that dangerous, but the one that is really dangerous is called the melanoma. Yeah, malignant melanoma. There is a basal cell carcinoma. There are several squamous cell carcinoma. There are 3 types of skin cancer actually. And again, the most dangerous one is the melanoma, malignant melanoma. This is because what? Because that UV light destroy the cell. Now, people that used to live in the tropical area for a long time, right? Years and years and years, when let's say they move to that area, again, there will be varieties of skin color on that population, right? Even though there may be the same family, within the same family, sometimes you have different color also, right? There are darker and, little bit lighter, right? Now they move to this area, and what happened? The one that actually lighter color in the tropical area, most of them will die because of this. Right? Because of what? Skin cancer. Because what? Because their cell, the skin cell, is not highly protected. But the one that have darker color skin, they have more melanin. And that melanin can protect them against this cancer. And what happened? This is the one that will be adapted, and this is the one that will be continuously live there and then have the progeny. What happened with the progeny? Light color or dark color? Dark color. And then within this progeny, there are also several people that have different color, and etc. And finally, after years and live in that place, mostly in the abundance, you will see more people with darker color. Can you see that one? Now we go to the area that have less UV light. Let's say the half years is gonna be winter. Most of the time is night, right? Only several hours day. Now, what do you think the people that will live there? The one that have darker color or lighter color? Do they need really darker color on that place or not? Not really, right? Therefore, the one that will be adapted will be the one that have lighter color. How about people that with the darker color? This is the disadvantage of people with darker color live in the temperate zone. They actually, he mentioned about what? Vitamin D production. If you have darker color and you live in the area with less UV light, mean that you have less vitamin D production. And what happened? You have less vitamin D production. What happened with your bones?
They get brittle.
Brittle, fragile. So mostly, darker color people will not adapt it nicely in the area with less UV light. But the whiter color will have. It is the reason why in the study, based on the research, the high risk of people that have vitamin D what you call the less vitamin D will be the African American people. Because what? Because they cannot make their own vitamin D. Therefore, they have to have more supplement from outside, vitamin D, tablet or whatever, right? Compared to the lighter. But people that are lighter color, in this modern area, now people can live at any place they want, right? So if you are, for example, have lighter color and move to the tropical country, what is your high risk gonna be on that tropical country? Melanoma. So, but in the modern time now, we have the ability to try to at least protect us. Okay, most people using what you call it, sunscreen, or wearing the clothing that protect you from the UV lights. Can you see the difference? Right? That's the reason. Why more people in the tropical area have darker color, and why more people in the temperate zone have a lighter color. That's adaptation. That's for their survival. Okay, okay. That's part of the video that you watch, and this is part of the let's say it's kind of evolution too. After a period of time. Now, look at this. This is part of the thing that we just talk actually. Now, here, this is a type of natural selection. Remember, natural selection is the force that will make population adapt, evolve to the certain type of characteristic. There are 3 types of this natural selection. The first one is called the stabilizing selection. What does stabilizing selection mean?
When the conditions of the environment favor a very particular thing, so variation gradually is sort of selected out of towards one particular phenotype.
Especially the one that is abundance. It's mostly will choose the characters that is abundance on that place. You kind of stabilize that characters. So let's say in this example is bird. So bird, let's say in natural original population, this bird actually there are some that this is follow the blue line first, right? The blue line is showing us there are some birds that this is the same bird, okay, the same species population, right? There are some of them that produce only 2 eggs, but it's few of them, few of them. Now, majority of this bird is actually produce 4 to 5 eggs. That's the majority, the optimum. Most of them do that, okay? And then there are also few of this population that produce, let's say, 7 eggs. Many eggs, right? You get this one? So what is the optimum population? The one that produce how many eggs? 4 to 5. Right? Now, after a certain period of time, the one that produce 2 eggs and also the one that produce 7 eggs, they cannot handle it. Right? So, for example, the one that produce 2 eggs, they usually gone, extinct. And then the one that produce 7 eggs, they are so tired. They are so tired to produce so many eggs, they also gone. And that natural selection actually forced them into the population, the optimum population. Now, mostly it's become shorter. Okay, so you see that one, the range is now shorter. No more. Okay, in this population now, the new population after natural selection, no more. You will not find the bird that produce 2 eggs anymore. And also you will not find the egg that produce how many eggs? 7 anymore. Mostly, that population only consists of birds that produce whether 4 or 5. So this is what we call the stabilizing selection. The natural selection actually stabilizes the optimum population. Can you follow that? So the same thing with the skin color that I mentioned before. In the tropical area, again, there are some people that have maybe lighter color. There are some people that have darker color. There may be some people that have so dark color. Is that right? And then let's say mostly the other one is the kind of the middle color. And after certain years, what happened? The light color is gone. The really dark color also gone on that habitat. What happened? Mostly only people with the tan color. You see the some area, mostly they have tan color type of people, right? In South America, mostly little bit tanning, color. But look at for example, in the African country, there are stabilized to the more maybe darker color in some places, right? This is nothing about, nothing's about the different, but this is about what? This is about adaptation, how they adapt. This is the best, the best way to adapt for this certain of people. Okay, you have question? You're smiling. Yeah. Okay. Anybody have question for this stabilizing? Easy to understand, right? Now, the next one. What is the name of the
Directional selection.
directional? What does directional mean?
A change. Oh, direction.
Direction.
Direction is a.
What is direction? Can I have direction?
Yeah. Direction is I don't know, a vector. I don't know how to say direction now.
Direction is going one way or this way or that way, right? So it's going to whether that way or this way. Okay. Mostly it's going to the one that used to be few in number. It's not stabilized. Okay. Usually go to the one that used to be what? To be few in number. Go to that direction. Now, in this example, this is kind of evolution, but we can also tell this is kind of revolution because it's in a short period of time. Sometimes they will create this directional selection also. Example. Okay, this is example. Let's say there is a group population of moth, or maybe just say butterfly, easy to say, butterfly. In this butterfly, this population have two different color. One is very bright, and the other is very, let's say, darker. Okay? Now, if they live on the non-polluted place, it means that area, the bark of the tree mostly is going to be lighter color because no pollution, no, what you call the black smoke that, kind of polluted in that area. So which one do you think mostly the most abundant population gonna be? Darker color or lighter color butterfly or moth? Why? Why they are more lighter color on that area?
They can camouflage.
They can camouflage. The predator maybe will choose the what? The darker color because it's very contrast with the background where they live. You get this one? So the natural environment or natural places just like that is abundant. The original population will have more the white color, lighter color butterfly, right? Now let's say in that area they build the industry and produce the smoke, boom, boom, boom. It is polluted the environment. Now most of the environment become darker. You see what? Now what happened with that population then? Which one do you think gonna be more? The darker. Why? Again, predator will be able to choose the lighter color easier because the background is now darker. This is what we call the directional selection. It's go to one direction. From natural light now become darker population. Now, what happened if the governments realize, oh man, this is bad. Maybe not bad because, for the butterfly, it's bad for us. We're breathing so many, polluted air. And then finally, they kill that industry. And then after several years, the environment is going back to the natural environment. Which one do you think gonna be more abundant after that, after the recovery?
Lighter once again.
Lighter once again. That's another directional selection. Can you follow that? Yeah? How the directional selection work, the natural selection go to one direction only. Okay, what is the last one? Diversifying selection. What is this? It means that, let's say, this population has the middle part, which is the most abundant one, the optimum one, okay? Let's say the optimum one, in this case, using what is that? Is there's a bunny or, let's say bunny, okay? Okay, so naturally, okay, before the natural selection, the most abundant one is what color? White color. So this is white color, the most abundance on the natural selection, in the natural place, right? And then after some disturbances, maybe pollution or whatever, on that area, of course, there are also the one that have darker color and then the one that have the combination color that live over there. So there are three type of colors, population on that place, right? No, before the disruptions, before something happened, before the force of natural selection, mostly the white color is abundant over there. Now, after the disturbances, we can say that disturbance is actually a type of natural selection that's happening on that place. The white color is now unable to live. They become very low in number. What? But the other two, now they have become abundant. So after the disturbances, after the natural selection, what happened with that population? Which one is going to be more abundant?
The one that races.
Which one more abundant after that disturbances? Which one? The two of them, okay? The one that used to be few on the left and used to be few on the right, now become the abundance one. And the one that used to be abundant now become the fewest one. You follow this? This is what we call the diversifying selection. Okay, so this is actually, this natural selection will work like this. Some of them will go to the stabilizing, some maybe go to the one direction, causing that, and then some natural selection will cause the diversifying selection. Usually the one that diversifying selection, it might create a new species because it's kind of making this two direction over there. So maybe this will become one species later, this become another species later. Can you follow this? We can connect this with the speciations. Okay, do you have question for this type of natural selection? Okay. Okay, how about the human again? How about human? Let's say go back to the tropical area based on the natural selection for a long period of time. This type of stabilizing or one direction or diversifying selection. If we just talk about one place, let's say in Africa, it is going to be stabilizing one direction or diversifying. What do you think?
I think direction.
Yeah, it could be directional or it could be stabilizing, but it is most likely is not diversifying because mostly people kind of have the same characters on that place, right? Yeah, that it could be directional, it could be stabilizing. It's not really creating the diversifying. Okay, this one. Now, on the temperate zone, what do you think is gonna be? It's gonna be maybe directional or maybe stabilizing. Only white color or light color people will be live mostly in the area. But in the middle of that, sometimes there is a place that kind of the middle between Africans and temperate zone, like Asian country. If you see you see the Chinese people with the Malaysian people. Do you know they are the same? The color, which one is lighter?
Chinese.
Japanese, Chinese, Korean, right? But they are the same line actually with Indonesian, with Malaysian, but it's kind of diversifying over there. You see that one? Because between this is the border between really high concentrations of UV light, low concentrations of UV light, and middle concentration of UV light. And it's this area over here kind of diversifying color. Yeah? You see the Chinese people, there are some have a very yellow color of skin. Japanese people, going to the Burmese, Thailand, they have combinations. Malaysian like me, Indonesian, there's so many kind of, different colors over there. Can you see that one? At least if we try to apply to human kind of selection. Okay. You have questions? No. Okay. We continue, right? Again, just remember over here, the evolution is not individual, but evolution is work in the population. Okay. Okay, now we go to the evidence of evolution. Okay, some evidence of evolution, at least four. At least four evidence of evolution. We can also adding more actually like artificial selection. It is also, we can use also as an evidence of evolution. This is a type of evolution that's working faster than the original evolution itself. But right now, we follow the book. The book say how many type of evidence? Four. What is the first type? Fossils, record. What is fossil?
Preserved remains of.
Preserved remains. Not really bone. Even actually, it is not the bone actually. Right? It is sometimes it's not really the bone, but it is remnant of the bone. That's gonna be shaped like the bone. The bone itself actually already sometimes in many places is already gone. It's filled with other material sometimes. Okay, sometimes it's not really bone on the fossil, but this is the remnant of the old or previous organism. And then this fossil actually telling you the age of the fossil itself, or the age of the soil or the layer of soil where the fossil actually present. Right now, we able to measure the age of that soil or that layer. What we use?
Carbon dating.
Carbon dating. So if you see somebody, old people, they start to dating, you can old people starting to dating, what you can call what? Carbon dating. It's telling you the age of that layer. Okay, that's fossil. What's the second one?
Anatomy and embryology.
Anatomy and embryology. In the anatomy, there are several close relative species. They will have the similarity of their anatomy structure. Maybe their bone. Maybe there is a structure is called the remnant structure that become very small because they never use it. What do you call that? It is a special name for that structure that becomes small because it's vestigial structure. Do we have it?
Yes.
What is that?
Appendix.
Appendix. Appendix is vestigial structure. What is that actually used to be? This is actually telling us we have a relation with the animal that eat plants. So in the animal that eat plant, they don't have this appendix. Why? Because their appendix is become what we call the ruminantia, which is the place that they are able to digest the cellulose. What is cellulose? Very hard molecules of plant, mostly in the cell wall. Plant cell wall is called cellulose. Human cannot digest that cellulose. It's just become fibers in our stomach. But animal that eat plant, of course, they have the enzyme that able to digest the cellulose, and they perform that in the stomach, special stomach. Okay, and this is actually we never use it. It's become appendix to us, to some animal like human. Okay, that's example of vestigial. So therefore, this is my suggestion. Right? If you have organs, use it. Otherwise, it's become small. Except I don't think about here, there's a muscle. If you never use your muscle, what happened with your muscle? It becomes small. We don't call it vestigial because for vestigial need longer time to be vestigial. But at least if you don't use your muscle becomes small. That's it. For a long period of it's maybe you don't have that kind of ability, you know. Another example is in the boa. You know, it's boa. What is boa? Snake. So that snake, if you, I don't know whether you have been hold that snake and flip it over to the, you know, to their belly or not. Some of them actually have a very small vestigial structure on their belly that actually look like it used to be
Legs.
the legs. You guys know? It's telling us there is correlation between snake and which animal that look like a snake walk with their belly but have leg. What do you call this group? It's the same with the snake also, the reptile, right? There are a group of reptile that walk with their leg, like lizard, for example, is have that connection. This vestigial structure. Because snake never use it, right? They just slithering, you know, in what movie that have a snake slithering, the magic movie?
Harry Potter.
And even in the Chinese story, they have actually snake that can fly, and also have the legs. Anybody know what is the name? Dragon. You see the dragon? I don't know whether there is there used to be dragon or not, but that's their imaginations about, you know, the combination of animals. Dragon is not really snake, it's not really lizard, it's not really bird, but it's all have that combination, right? So it's kind of how people see connection between some animal. This is actually they're thinking about evolution too. Dragon. Even there is a dragonfly. You know what is dragonfly? It's not really dragon. It's not really snake. It's just insect. Okay, now embryogenesis. What is embryogenesis?
The
Development of embryo, fetus, and then is close related species, or you know, they usually have very similarity with their development, embryo development. Like for example, we are the same class with fish, the same class with what is after fish?
Type of fish.
No, you know, there are mammalian have 5 classes.
Oh.
The one that's in the water is called fish, and then going up a little bit within water and land is called amphibian. Then they're mostly on land, reptile, and then they can fly, bird, and then us, mammalians, right? So vertebrate has 5 classes. Within these 5 classes, when we check their embryo development, the beginning of this development is very similar. All of us have tail. Can you see that? Even human has tail during their development. We still have tail. We still have tailbone. How many tailbone we have? How many tailbone? That's good. 1 is fused of 4 or 5 bone, but only 1 tailbone. That's a good thing. You can imagine if we have 20 tailbones, we're gonna have to. But You see, in the embryo, all of these classes, from fish to mammal, they all have tail. And they all have gill, what we call the gill slit. Eh? Now this gill slit for the amphibian and fish is become gills, and for us is changed, into later become part of the pharynx, larynx, and the lungs. Okay, can you follow that? That's how the evolution that's coming from the close relative organism, a species. And the next one, what is the next evidence? Biogeography. And we mentioned this a lot yesterday when we talk about, western part of Indonesia and Asian continent, eastern part of Indonesia and Australian continent. This is actually biogeography. So most of animal on the western part, they evolve within the same ancestor, and this one also evolved within the same common ancestor. It's give you different kind of organism, right? Population. That's biogeography. And again, we can use also whether allopatric or what is the other one? Sympatric speciation. This is evidence of evolution. Why we have different type of monkey here compared to the Africa continent. This is biogeographical evidence. Okay, now the last one. This is the newest type of evidence. What you call this? Molecular biology. And this is the best right now. This is the best evidence can be used to identify or to see the closest relationship between species. Even this molecular biology can be used for knowing whether this baby has this father or that father. You know what I mean? You see what? Whose father is this? Because something so, who's the father? Okay? Then people can use this molecular biology, which is the DNA analysis. And this is the most modern type of seeing the close relationship between species. This is the most modern type of evidence for evolution. Now, based on the molecular biology, then we can actually make a classification. Remember last time we talked about taxonomy with a better way. Because the one that's closer is going to be the same group, farther away, farther away, farther away. This one and this one is going to be the farthest group, right? Like, for example, human. What is the closest species to human based on the molecular biology? Chimpanzee. And then go to the gorilla, going to the, all the ape will be closer on the right side. And then the one that have tail, and finally plant. What is going to be the plant? It's going to be maybe farther from us, what? But we still have similarity with the plant. With banana, for example. According to the DNA analysis, maybe we have about 6% similarity with banana. Which one? I don't know. But DNA contents, right? Every organism have the same DNA, right? DNA is very simple, the same, but maybe the sequence that make different. Anybody know? Still remember in the DNA there are 4 type of base. What is that? Adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine, right? Uracil for the RNA, yeah. So only 4. What make different? The sequence. Maybe our sequence is A, T, G, but the banana maybe most is T, G, or whatever. But the closer the DNA sequence, the closer the relationship gonna be. Are you with me? And we, as a human, consist also DNA, and all organisms also consist of DNA. Bacteria, for example. Do they have DNA? Do bacteria have DNA? Come on, bacteria is organism. Yeah. So bacteria have chromosome, and chromosome consists of DNA, but the DNA is very short. Therefore, between us and bacteria is going to be very farther away correlation, but we still the same. What is that? The similarity? We are organism, consists of DNA. How about viruses?
No.
Viruses have DNA too, but the virus don't have cell. That's the difference. Virus is not organism, but virus still have DNA, right? And also have RNA. There are two types of virus: DNA viruses and RNA viruses. Which one do you think is going to be the most dangerous one?
DNA?
No,
RNA.
the RNA virus. Most of the dangerous virus is actually the one that carry RNA. Flu virus is RNA viruses. The COVID is RNA virus. This coronavirus is the Ebola. That's RNA viruses. Most of the DNA viruses, they are just annoying, not really killing us. Example is herpes. You know herpes? Herpes is actually DNA viruses. People will not die because of herpes, whether oral herpes or genital herpes. It's just itchy. Can you believe this? But again, virus still have DNA, but they don't have cell. They are not organism, but still it has DNA and or RNA. Okay. Do you have question? And we can add, as I mentioned before, one more, which is artificial selection. This is kind of the evidence that you really can see it right now, okay, in your daily life, right? You see the cow that you have used to be the wild cow, bulls, right? But now domesticated, and sometimes it might become new species. The breeds, the dog breeds, maybe sometimes become new species. Cat, how many type of cat? There are cat with the hair. There are cat without hair. I feel weird to see cat without hair. It's fucking right. They said that cat will not give you the allergy. Right? They say the cat that don't have hair. Anybody know what is the name of the cat that without hair? They have special name though. Yeah. There are Siamese cats. It's really beautiful, right? There are calico. Anybody know what's calico cat? The one that have three colors. Okay, yellow, browns, and white, something like that. Calico cat. So there are different cat too. Not only dog breeds. That's a part of the what we call it? Artificial selection. Human actually force the selection. They do not use the natural selection, but they choosing. Oh, this one is good for me, so this is the one that I will make it growing. The other one, they kill it. And what happened? Boom, you have this. Oh, I like this one. So that's the artificial selection. It's actually select, organism into something that become growing or or life, right? This is actually similar with natural selection, but natural selection is work naturally. They don't really choose, but the organism have to be adapted to that specific condition. Okay. Anybody have questions so far? Okay, this is just showing us several fossils. If you interested in study of fossil, there is special science that do that. What is the name of the science?
Paleontology.
Paleontology, archaeology. That's a type of a science that work with the fossil. So if you watch the what is it, the dinosaurs movie, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park. They focus is actually in the fossil. So they're creating species that used to be fossilized species. So this is an example of fossil that is considered as the bridge between reptile and the bird. Anybody know what is the name of this fossil? Archaeopteryx. Now, what can you see from this fossil? What character that make this fossil considered as the bridge between reptile and the bird? What is the characteristics of reptile that you see in this fossil?
The head structure, and it has teeth.
The head structure, the teeth, maybe also scaly, scaly feet or something like that. What kind of structure that make this animal look like bird?
Wings.
The wing, the feather. Okay, so scientists put this animal as the links between reptile and bird. So based on the evolution, which one actually evolved first, reptile or bird? Which one is more modern? Bird. Okay, bird. So that's the sequence of evolution, coming from the prokaryotes, which is bacteria, one cell organism, and then it's divided into protists. What? Remember, protists, many of them still have one cell organism, unicellular. Some of them multiply. Now, some protists, the one that look like animal, is called the choanoflagellate. This is actually the one that will evolve into animal. This animal is actually coming from what? Coming from protozoa, protists, choanoflagellate. The one that look like plant, there is a algae, it's called the chara or chara, C-H-A-R-A. It has so many characteristics of plant, and it is considered as the one that the common ancestor for plant group. And there is also some protists that is combination between the plant and animals. They have a kind of slimy thing. It's called the slime mold. You see that one? The name mold. What did this become? The other kingdom. Fungi kingdom. What? The slime. So many of them is coming from this protists. Okay? And then the animal, of course, starting from water animal. Right? So therefore fish considered as the first group of animals. And then from the fish, go to what? What's the second one? Amphibian. There are the fish that look like amphibian. It's called the tiktaalik. This is the one that actually become reptile. So reptile is actually not from amphibian. You see that one? It's actually reptile coming from fish. It's called the tiktaalik. And this tiktaalik growing legs, it's become reptile. And there are some reptile that become bird, like this one. And there are some reptile, it's called the therapsis. That's the one actually evolved into mammals. So mammal is not coming from the bird. Mammal coming from reptile. So reptile will evolve into bird and also will evolve to mammal. And of course, some of them stay as a reptile. Can you follow this one? That's the evolution direction. What is the highest or the higher or the most modern type of organism based on evolution? Which group? The highest, the most sophisticated.
Reptiles?
Reptile? You think reptile is better than us? Mammal. Okay. So mammal is considered as the most advanced type of organism. And based on, if you see the fossil age, okay, human is actually just developed how many years ago? Anybody know how many years ago? The modern human is actually evolved.
Showing the Mesozoic right now.
And the top one, how many years ago?
145 to 65.
No, the top one, the very top one.
I think that's what we're looking at.
Huh?
Oh, age of Homo sapiens.
Placental mammals.
Oh, I'm not on this. I'm sorry. I'm not on the last period. 0.01 million years ago. How many years is that? Can you calculate with your? Can you calculate with your computer or your smartphone? 0.01 time 1 million. How many? Just about 10,000. And people say about 25,000. Yeah, between 10,000 25,000 years ago, human just evolved. If we if we use a religion as a basic, then we can say Adam's just created about maybe yes, around that 10,000 20,000 years ago. You can actually follow the what's it called, the phylogeny of human, from modern human up to your parents, your grandparents, and then let's say uh, uh, Jesus, Zachariah, let's say the prophet. About that, there's a Solomon, right? Who is the father of Solomon? David, yeah, and then up you say Jacob. You have Moses, Aaron's over there, and then you have Jacob, Joseph, first, right? Joseph. Who is the father of Joseph? Hmm? Jacob, right? Jacob. And then who's the father of Jacob? Isaac. Who's the father of Isaac? Abraham. See, you don't, come on, man, you don't know that to sequence. And then Abraham, there is a Noah. Noah is very close to Adam's. What? So if you, it's just about 20,000, 10,000 years ago. And this is very related with this, according to the fossil record. I don't know. I don't know the connection, but if you are religious people, you can actually make connection. So based on the science, the modern human is just evolved about 10,000, 20,000 years ago, and coincidentally, it is the same age of Adam's. Yeah, when he was created, or when he was maybe put on the earth on the first time. Anybody learns about religion? About the story of a prophet or the Adams, Yeah. So maybe in one of the question on the final exam will be there. Right? I just want to make sure, because evolution is kind of thing that sometimes make people differentiate because of they fight so much because of the religion say no, we are not evolved from, for example, some people say, some religious people that don't really understand the evolution, they say that we evolved from ape like or something like that. It's not really like Darwin never say that we evolved from. There is something that is not really there, is not really understandable, and some people say this is kind of missing link between human and other animals, because we are if you see yourself, we ourselves, we are very different with other animals. We have this, what we have, the brain that, it's consciousness, the brain's intellectual, that none of the other organisms have this one. And if it is evolution, I don't know how this evolved, but this is just for your thinking. Okay, I hope you you can relate this if it is in the final question. Okay, anybody have question for this? Toby, you're a new student here. Okay, if there is no question, I think we stop this. Yeah, just about 4 more minutes. Should be fine, and we will continue. Okay, we're gonna discuss one by one. So far, we not finished the fossil yet, so we're gonna continue with the ages of fossil, and then after that, we go to the anatomy, embryology, and then biogeography, and finally with the molecular biology. Okay, that's the process of evolution so far. I'll see you again tomorrow. I think tomorrow class will be going back to the afternoon class again, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because we hike in the morning.
Yes, and also you have one class, not class, one visitation today at 1 p.m. Just make sure you come here at 1 p.m. We will visit the farm around here that provide the food for, I think, for schools and.
I'm going to clinic today.
Hmm?
Today I go to clinic, but I think everyone else goes.
Oh, you different. You're not my group then. She's different group. Okay. Okay, I'll see you again later.
No, I haven't seen a text or anything.
Oh, okay. I saw you doing it.
Well, I did the pages 20 to 23.